Hello, my name is Josh Lewis. Today I'll be interviewing Bennie Harris. It is July 25th. We're in his home in Washington, D.C. This interview is part of the D.C. Oral History Project, sponsored by the Neighborhood Farm Initiative and the D.C. Humanities Council. Bennie, thanks for having me here.
You're welcome.
Alright, could you please start just by stating your name and your address?
My name is Bennie Harris. I live at 6540 North Capitol Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. 20012.
Alright, thanks. So, let's start out, when you were young, where were you born? Were you born in D.C.?
No, I was born in Hamlet, North Carolina.
North Carolina. So who did you grow up with? Who were your parents? And
My mother was Eliza Pearson Harris. I stayed with my grandfather and grandmother for a while when I was young, when I first started gardening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have brothers and sisters, or?
I have two brothers. I had two brothers. They're both deceased now, and I got three sisters. It was six of us.
Okay. And so, how long did you live in North Carolina?
When I graduated from high school, I went into the military.
Okay. So in North Carolina, you did your family did you live in a city, or was it more of a country setting, or what kind of?
It was. I lived in a city, but we all had gardens. Everybody had gardens.
Was it right in your yard, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right out back, we had a big acre or so of garden in the back.
All right. So pretty much as early as you can remember,
Oh, I've been gardening
food.
all my life.
Yeah. What type of things did you used to grow from when you were a child that you remember?
Oh, we used to do the same things we're doing now: sweet potatoes, collards, cabbage, tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, peas, beans, okra.
Okay.
Well, we didn't do zucchini.
Do you remember where your parents or your family used to get like seeds and things like that? How you got access to those?
Well, we mostly used seeds from the year before.
So you used to save most of your seeds?
Yeah. Okay. We'd let X amount of beans dry, and X amount of okra and whatever,
Okay. Is there any really influential people from your neighborhood as a child that you remember particularly? Any community leaders or anybody that really stuck with you that you remember to today?
We didn't have no kind of community leaders when it came to doing things like that, gardening.
Yeah.
That was just something that I think, well, most of the people had gardens.
Mm-hmm.
Of some type. Some had bigger than others. I guess it depends on your family income.
Yeah. So who did most of the cooking when you were growing? What kind of stuff did they make? What kind of meals do you remember that you enjoyed eating as a child?
Oh, well, we had my grandmother cooked, and of course all of us cooked. She taught us how to cook very early. My grandmother taught all the boys in our family how to do everything. Real early in life, 4 or 5 years old, we was cooking and ironing and gardening and doing the things that you do.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember how the stuff that you didn't grow? Did you go to supermarkets? Were there, what kind of stores? Where did you purchase?
We went to the stores, fish markets, and got the fish. And of course, back then, you had your different little stores that sold different things. We didn't, in the summertime, we didn't buy no vegetables from those stores until they got, like December, because it was pretty warm in my part of Carolina year round. So we didn't spend a lot of money in the stores on food.
Okay. All right. So you gardened all through high school, and then you said you went to the military. How long did you spend in the military?
I spent 2 years in the military.
2 years?
Yeah.
And what, did you travel abroad, or?
No, I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I got hurt training to go to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't do no traveling out the States while I was in the military.
What did you? So after the military, did you immediately move to Washington?
Pretty much, yeah.
What was the reason? Why did you decide to come here?
Job.
Yeah. What kind of job did you get?
Well, when I first came to D.C., it was still quite kind of racist. My first job here was busboy job in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the name of the restaurant?
Yeah, Country Club. It's called Congressional now. It was a different name back then.
The Congressional Country Club?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It was, that's back during the days when Jim Lemon was the manager there. He used to be a baseball player in D.C.
Okay.
A long time ago.
All right. So, when did you start gardening in D.C.? Did you find space to use immediately? Did it take a while? Or?
Well, it took a while because you didn't have access to community gardens back then, and as soon as I moved out of an apartment into a house, I had a garden in the backyard.
Okay. Where did you bought a house, or where was the house that you had?
Well, I bought it in Hyattsville and on Webster Street in Northwest.
Webster Street, Northwest. Do you remember how big the garden was you had there?
It was about as big as bigger than the 25. Pretty big. I had a nice little backyard.
Yeah. Did the rest of your neighbors, did they garden in Hyattsville much, or?
I was maybe me and a doctor across the street probably the only two people that was probably gardening.
About what year time period would you say that is?
In the 70s.
The 70s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early 70s.
Okay. So
60, yes, early 70s, I guess.
So it sounds like, I mean, you were able to come here and kind of just jump into it. You already knew what types of methods you wanted to use. It wasn't much of a learning curve.
Oh no, I'd been gardening, and I started, like I said, I started playing around the garden when I was 3 years old. So
okay, so
I got good gardening.
Yeah. So when you lived on Webster Street, was what type of neighborhood? Was it an all-black neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what type of access? Was there any farmers markets around, or was there?
At that time, the only farmers market was 6th Street. They had the big farmers market. That's where all the farmers bought their stuff in, and some of them wasn't farmers or whatever over on 6th Street in Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go over there and get fresh vegetables and things when I couldn't get them. Because I got used to eating vegetables when I was real young, and it's kind of, vegetables and beans. We ate a lot of them.
Do you remember any of the people or the specific vendors you used to frequent when you went to that 6th Street market?
Nah, I didn't never get that close to it was just hustle and bustle, and they didn't have no time for no conversation unless you went over there one day when wasn't nothing happening, which I probably didn't do.
Yeah. Were there any other stores or co-ops in the area that you used to shop at that you remember?
Oh, I used to go to all the stores like I do now. I mean, I do most of my shopping is done at Whole Foods for certain things, and I go to the commissary and get certain things, but I like eating fresh as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't buy. I have a freezer full of stuff, but I don't use it that much until I run out of things to do or eat. But I like eating fresh.
So we would say that, I mean, in your neighborhood then there was a good amount of options of places for you to get
food,
fresh local stuff.
Yeah. Well, not enough fresh local stuff. It was a stretch where people stopped gardening, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I never did stop. And when the farmers market, and then in the last, I guess the farmers market up there, I remember when it first opened.
Tacoma Park.
That's probably was the oldest farmers market around. It was the only one around for quite a while. But I used to go there. I still go there every Sunday when I'm in town just to see what they got. But I do buy stuff from them. I got a couple of vendors up there. One vendor that I started buying from his daddy, and his daddy's passed, and now his son is about to take over. So I've seen a couple, 2, 3 generations, at least 3 generations of them for those farmers.
Do you remember the name of the farm?
You know, I don't know the name, but I tell you what, you ever go to the market up there or something?
Occasionally.
The guy that had the real sweet corn right on the corner, the first stand on the right.
In the right from...
If you're going, coming up...
Entering from this side of the market, not from Maryland side.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
First stand on the right. This guy started doing sauerkrauts. His daddy taught me taught us how to do how they did old time sauerkraut.
Yeah.
So we started, but I just go to him because I like the way he handles his things. So he's been around a while, and we have a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
You know, his son, his wife, his daddy. But his daddy did that.
Yeah. Was there anything that kind of like surprised you, or anything in terms of the availability of what was here compared to North Carolina? Was there any difference, or do you think?
Well, it was a big difference. The soil and everything was completely different there. You know, that's real good gardening soil in North Carolina. You had to make this good gardening soil in this area.
So there's better, more rich soil in North Carolina.
Yeah, well, the climate and everything is altogether different.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like the garden we're in now down in Mamie D, that's a filled-in garden. It's filling, and you can tell it all the time.
Yeah.
Because every time you turn over, you're digging up another different kind of rock or something that normally wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So I think that used to be in World War I, ammo dump or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe. So you lived on Webster Street. When did you move to the district?
Well, I lived on Webster Street in D.C.
Oh, in D.C. Oh, sorry. I thought you said it was Hyattsville.
Well, no, Hyattsville I lived on Talbot Lane.
Okay.
But in D.C., well, I lived several places in D.C., but the only place I had a garden was on Webster Street in Northwest and on Webster Street in Northeast.
You lived in both Northwest and Northeast Websters? Okay.
Yeah, right up Hawaii Avenue.
Cool.
I lived in there.
Alright. So, when is your earliest memories of Mamie D. Lee? How did you get involved with that?
Well, we were, Bernard and I, I met Mary in 1976 in Las Vegas, and I was in the garden, and she liked gardening herself, but she just did a little stuff around the house here.
Mm-hmm.
So, because this is her house.
Okay.
In about 77, 76, we was in the garden on Cherry Hill Lane in Hyattsville. We had a spot there, and that wasn't big enough. I mean, we had to carry water, and it was difficult to do, but we did it. And then we went out on 301 in Maryland.
Okay.
And they had some farms out there where they was renting out plots to gardeners.
Mm-hmm.
So we was involved with that for about 2 or 3 years. And then we found out about Mamie D. Lee.
Okay.
Which that was probably in the late 70s.
Is that just word of mouth, or do you remember an advertisement, or?
It was the word of mouth. I'm still trying to remember, how did I find that? Well, we used to drink down there in South Dakota a lot in Edentown, a lot of guys, and I think somebody mentioned the garden down there.
Okay.
And from there, I went and we checked it out, and there was plenty of garden spaces because they didn't have a lot of people gardening there. And I started gardening down in Mamie D. Lee.
So there was, how many people would you say were already gardening when you arrived at Mamie D. Lee? Was there a lot, like 5 or
Oh, it
20?
was 25, maybe 40 or 50.
Oh, wow. Wow. So, do you remember any of the people that were there, you know, when you first got around that might have been, you know, the...
Every person that was there is dead now when I... either they dead, or a couple maybe still living, they were up in age.
Did, was everyone that you, as far as you could see, were they all pretty much experienced gardeners, or were most of them?
Yeah, most of them, 90% of them was experienced gardeners.
Yeah. So, what year did you say that you started at Mamie D. Lee?
It was either 78 or 79. Somewhere between 77 and 79.
Okay. And so you said at the other place you had to carry water. You didn't have to do that here?
No, but we always had running water here.
Okay, so that's been for a long time.
That's the main reason we moved there, because we didn't have to carry water.
Yeah.
Because other than that, I had trucks. We bought big drums and we filled up with water at the house and then take it to the garden.
Yeah. What about tools and stuff? Did everyone bring their own tools?
Yeah, everyone bought their own tools at that time. And Mamie D. Lee, we just started buying tools there in the last 2 or 3 years. Because at one time, the Park Service tilled our gardens and did all the heavy work for us until Ronald Reagan became president and he cut the funding for the park, for the interior department. And that's when the whole area down there went to whack. As far as I'm concerned, other than the garden, we kept it going.
This might be a not that great a question because I should know the answer, but was the metro already built?
No.
The metro was not built.
No.
So it must have been way different around here. I mean, without the metro, was it as densely populated in this area? It
was real populated, other than those new apartments they put up since Metro been built there.
Okay.
On the left, but that you had people right there in the community on Fort Totten Drive that was in the park. Most of the people was in the community they wasn't out. I think when I came in, Bernard probably lived the farthest out at that time because it was strictly community garden.
Do you remember what was in the place of the apartments they just built near the station? Do you remember what used to be there?
Woods.
Just woods.
Yeah.
So there was
Metro Station, all that whole area is all woods.
So at that time, no one really even lived that particularly close to the metro. It was just kind of like
it was some apartments. If you notice when you go down on the left where you see the high apartments, if you go a little further higher, that was a set of lower
those are
apartments.
Older, yeah. They're
old
tearing
apartments.
Those down now.
Yeah, but they was only like 3 or 4 stories high.
Yeah. When I first moved to D.C., I actually lived in the newer apartments. That was the first place I lived. But the rent's too high there.
Oh, it is. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The rent is terrible all over this place. I was just reading, but the average rent down on U Street now is $2,700 a month.
Yeah. Not affordable for the average folks. All right. So, how big, when you got there, how big were the plots? Did everyone have a specific area?
25 by 25.
It's always been 25 by 25.
Yeah.
And so there's you said about 45 gardeners, so it seemed like maybe the place was half the size it is right now? Or?
The plots were the same. It's just that we rented up all the space we got is because each gardener would take on enough gardens to make sure we have the gardens full. Because at one time they wanted to build a school parking lot there.
Oh.
And the reason we stopped it because we rented up, we took on almost all the spaces and we had them all filled.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thanks. So that's why I have a place to garden today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a parking lot.
Nah.
Wow.
It was really nice down that end because the Park Service kept everything trimmed. The trees wasn't falling because they didn't have the ivy eating them up. They was in there. They was taking care of it. And we had a big tree right there where that table is.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big old beautiful tree. I think the lightning or something hit it and killed it.
What kind of tree was it?
It was an oak tree. We used to sit under it in the afternoons and talk and play cards. We have little picnics down in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we used to do a community picnic every summer. The garden sponsored it.
All right. So, was there? Were the other people in the community respectful of the garden? Did you have to worry about theft in those days?
You know, we did. You always had some,
mm-hmm.
but we didn't have a lot of theft because we gave a lot of stuff to people. Come by and they want something, we give it to them.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have a deer eating us up, so that wasn't a problem.
Why do you think there was no deer?
Well, because they had plenty of places to roam within our garden. They had plenty of woods in there. Now they take the woods all away and condos and things popping up in there. Yeah. You know, and they got overpopulated.
Yeah. What was the demographic like of the people that garden there? Old, young, black, white, Hispanic?
We was 99%. I think we had 1 or 2 white gardens.
Okay.
The rest of them were black, middle age and up.
Mm-hmm.
We probably were the youngest out there.
Yeah.
Me, Bernard, and Mary, because we all started at the same time.
Yeah.
We were probably the youngest out there.
But then this whole neighborhood was pretty much all black at that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was predominant. Well, maybe been one person down there. Yeah, it was 99% black.
Do you remember there being any difference in terms of like diseases or pests that you had to worry about here as opposed to back where you grew up, or are they kind of similar?
It was about the same. It's not a lot of difference in the weather in D.C. and North Carolina, mm-hmm. really. Okay. It probably is a little hotter in Carolina, longer.
Yeah.
You know.
So when did more people start to actually fill up the garden? When would you say that there actually started to become a waiting list to get a plot?
Believe it or not, it's been in the last 8. I tell you, to be frank with you, when Obama became president, Michelle got into that gardening.
Oh, yeah?
Because before that, I think, let's see, when B came down to the FFI about 5 or 6 years ago, whenever it was, we had very few gardeners. That's why we released out that part to an FI, because it was just helping us keep the garden.
Got you. So that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Just forgot what I was going to ask you. What about the growing methods and techniques? I mean, would you describe when you first got there? I mean, what types of did people till a lot? Were people talking about organic then, or what was really?
Well, we were most of us were organic then. There was a few that used for, but see, it just so happened when we first started gardening there, we ran into somebody to turn us on to this lady out off of 301 Central Avenue. They had a sheep farm.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I had in my gardening book, my old gardening book. I don't know where it is now. But anyway, it listed the manures that was the best for gardening, and sheep. Well, worm casting was number one, and sheep was number two. And I think because we always thought horses and cows was into it, but they're on the lower list when it comes to the real thing. So worm casting was number one. So we every year after we would go down to the sheep farm and cut 3 or 4 loads of sheep manure and spread it all over our garden before we tilled it. And we had to do that once a year. And that's it took care of it. And
do you remember the name of the place where you got the manure from? Or?
No, because they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
They finally, it was an old lady, a white lady. She hung on longer than she could, and they finally offered her so much money that she sold the farm.
Yeah.
And moved to Virginia.
Okay. So most people weren't doing any type of pesticides and things, or was it their organic pesticides then, or what?
Well, a lot of us was making up our own stuff like that, We hook up hot pepper and garlic. There's nothing in the garden. Until recently, I had never seen a pepper plant being eaten until recently. They got some pesticides, so they got some things that now eat peppers, but normally onions, okra, garlic, and pepper, you never see nothing touch it.
Just hot peppers or all peppers?
All peppers, really. But now I see them eating on certain peppers. In fact, last year I saw some insects eating on habaneros, and it really surprised me.
Eating on what?
Habaneros.
Oh, habaneros?
Habaneros.
Yeah, those are spicy.
Yeah, they're super hot. But usually I mix that with water and let it sit till it get real funky like. And put a little dish detergent in it. But also we use self-rising flour.
Well, what do you do with it?
You just sprinkle it on lightly on the plant. And when the insects eat the plant, the moisture from the plant makes them swell up because it's self-rising. You know what self-rising flowers will do?
Well, like, from the name, it sounds...
So it really works on the insects.
I've never heard of that one. That's interesting. So, what else used to eat your vegetables in the early days? I mean, it was more a wooded area. There was no deer, but were there other little critters around that you guys?
Every once in a while, you had the fox would come through, and coon, and then we didn't have no squirrels. Now you got the squirrels. See, one time squirrels wouldn't touch nothing, but now they'll go get your tomato and eat the seeds out of there. Go and dig into a cantaloupe because they know a seed is in it.
A fox. Have you seen any fox in any recent?
I saw a dead red fox down there 3 years ago.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
So, you said that. Oh, I mean, so basically, you had a core. Was it just like a core of people for the first through the 80s and the 90s, or was there a lot of turnover in the garden?
Wasn't a lot of turnover. Very little turnover. People got sick and died. That was a turnover at one time. That's what happened to most of the old gardeners over there. When I came, they eventually died.
What about safety issues? I mean, at some point there's been concern over safety issues there? When did that first start?
After Metro. See, traffic picked up after Metro. There wasn't a lot of traffic through there. Just a few people taking shortcuts to the Giant.
Yeah.
Down the hill, but otherwise there wasn't a lot of traffic.
Oh, that Giant's been there since before
Metro. That
Giant,
where it is now, it used to be right across from South Dakota liquor store. You know what it is?
Yeah. Where the empty spot is.
Yeah, well, that used to be Giant Plaza there. Yeah, the Giant and a couple more.
Yeah.
A hardware store there. They used to go to get stuff.
So, when they were building Metro, I mean, did that interfere with you guys at all, or how did that? No.
No.
And how about the school? Was the school involved?
School's
in the
always
early
been
days?
there, yeah.
And did they bring kids out? And
Yeah, well,
classes?
they haven't done it this year, but yeah, when they had the plot right there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
In fact, we used to give them food, I think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Just donate
in the cafeteria. Yeah.
Oh, and they would actually cook with the food you guys grew.
Yeah, I think so. I think I can remember that. Yeah.
What other charities can you remember that did you donate to a lot of charities in schools, or was it just mostly
No,
people
it was
you
just
knew?
people coming by,
Yeah.
you know, and people I knew. But we had often talked about. I think 1 or 2 years they might have did it, gave something to the homeless kitchen. I don't know, but at one time we, you know, now a lot of these new gardeners they come out. And they don't harvest since the stuff go to waste. It used to be you could go in somebody's garden and just take the stuff and put it up there, give it to somebody so it just don't go to waste. But you don't have the same friendliness and things in the garden like you had back in those days.
Why do you think that is?
Because they don't do nothing but come down and do their garden and leave. They don't socialize with nothing in nothing. See, we used to socialize under that tree.
Yeah.
Drinking beer and liquor and talking and cooking.
The Park Service is all right with that.
Oh yeah. Well, we didn't flaunt it. Like I said, it wasn't a lot of traffic, so
Yeah.
it was off beat.
Yeah.
When the school was closed down in evening time, you know, sometime there wasn't a whole lot of school activity, and it was it wasn't no. See that old blue blacktop tree now, that wasn't even there because there wasn't no path, just a little path there.
How many people can you remember at any given time being at some of the social gatherings or the get-togethers? At the
Almost all the gardeners.
Yeah, family
Almost
and
all.
friends and stuff too.
Yeah. Well, when we did the picnic once a year.
Yeah.
Community invited the whole community and family and whoever you wanted to.
Yeah.
We all put up a certain amount and bought a certain amount, and it was real nice. We did that every year for a while.
Did the Park Service still bring you wood chips and all the stuff that they bring now? Or
Well, they used to bring us topsoil and a whole bit.
just for free topsoil?
Yeah.
Wow. That'd be nice right now.
Well, things changed in the 80s. When Reagan became president, they just started doing all kind of changing rules and regulations and cutting people jobs and doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's affecting things right now.
Yeah.
And only the American public just don't know it.
Yeah.
They think it's coming from one thing, and it all started in 1980. It fell out on George Bush. He took the blame for stuff that Reagan started.
So that's interesting that you can identify issues with the garden that stem from certain political time periods.
Exactly.
So how come the water was hooked up there? Was it just because the school was there, or why did?
Well, the Park Service put that in for us.
Oh. Okay. Was that one of the the Victory Gardens that they had? Do you know about that?
No, it was just part of Rock Creek Gardens. See.
Yeah. Because I know some of. Do you know about the gardens that are? I interviewed a woman at the Melvin Hazen Community Garden, and she said that it was kind of like a dead space, and they turned it into. It was after the World War II, and they named it a Victory Garden.
Yeah, I wouldn't admit that's a little before my time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so you got the same kind of core of people. So it sounds like everyone was really close. Do you still keep up with people that are no longer at the garden, but may have been around in the 70s, and
They ain't around no more. They dead.
because you said you were among the younger of the group, and
Yeah.
also Bernard.
Yeah. The last guy died here the year before last, Monroe. He was one of the first people in the garden.
His name was Monroe.
Yeah.
Do you remember his last name?
That was his last name.
Oh. Do you remember his first name?
I got it written down on some of these papers right somewhere because I don't.
Yeah.
But nah.
Do you remember any stories about him, or what he used to grow, or what?
Well, he was a unique guy. He was one of the guys that wasn't a real serious gardener. He was down there for the camaraderie and all other good things.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a nice time down there. Because he used to walk around and look at everybody gardening, see what he could ask them to have a plant of, and help him get his going. Because he didn't buy no plants or nothing.
So he kind of made friends with everyone.
Oh yeah, everybody knew him. Well, everybody knew everybody then because they was, like I said, you would end up there talking. See, let me see. Eddie has probably been down there. Eddie and Licorice and Bernard and I. Well, see, we was down there at least 10, 15 years before Eddie showed up.
Okay.
And Licorice, too.
Yeah, Licorice is a little younger than.
Yeah.
What about?
But Licorice he's a very good gardener.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. I always try to listen to him when he's telling me some stuff. You and Eddie, and what about the guy next to me, Harry?
Harry came along a few years later. He's been there about 8 or 10 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's nice and he's helpful.
Yeah, I don't see him much. I saw him like once in the spring, and I haven't seen him since.
When he comes down, he came down yesterday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because most time I go down there a couple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
When I ain't busy, like I'll probably go end up going down again late this afternoon.
Yeah.
Harry, he's pretty good.
So did in those days?
See, Eddie is probably the only person out there that's not organic.
Yeah. Was he's using fertilizers and things? Or?
Nah, yeah, you don't see what he uses, but you know he's using it.
You can tell
Like
by his
look at the
plants.
plants.
Yeah. What about compost? Did you guys have a big compost pile back then, or what?
No, we didn't because one of the main reasons because of the grass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's hard to separate that grass,
Crabgrass, right?
crabgrass, from the rest, and if you can't kill it and it won't die.
Yeah.
So if you mix it in with the mulch and you bring it back out there, you're gonna be pulling it up again.
Yeah.
And that's primarily why I don't use it now.
Yeah, I don't use that stuff either. I usually bury my stuff if I'm gonna use it. But what they have the crabgrass in North Carolina too? Is that?
Yeah, well, we call it Bermuda grass. But see, in Carolina, there's nothing grow in your garden but what you put in there.
Huh.
That
sounds strange. Can you expand on that? Like, I mean, no weeds popped up, or?
No, because you didn't let them.
Okay.
You see, if you notice, I tilled 5 and 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is to kill everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep chopping and turning it, you're either going to rake it out or you're going to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody would take the time to do that, and then when the grass do come up one piece, because all of it don't pop up at the same time, and you get it as it pop up, they never let it seed. And my whole goal in our garden is not let none of those weeds seed.
Yeah, yeah.
See, but I like a clean garden because you want maximum yield. In order to get maximum yield, you have to do certain things. And the thing that if I was involved, if I they would spend more time on preparing than planting.
Mhm.
See, most people come out there, they spend all their time planting and no time preparing, and then they look up and they got a big mess, and they say, "Oh, this is terrible."
Well, what else is important besides tilling? Is that the biggest
Well,
thing?
well, see, when we till, we take out. You take out the old loose grass. Because those grasses, most of them, the weeds, you turn them over and they lay there, they're going to re-sprout again.
Mhm.
But see, every weed that you pull out of there, you know you're not going to see that no more because it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what, to me, the biggest enemy, my enemy in the garden is the weed.
Mhm.
And I treat it like the enemy. And that's what you have to do, treat it like the enemy. Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It grows faster than your plants. And, it's like those people, the guys up there that we going to probably end up have to take their garden. They come down every day and water all that grass the next ball.
Okay.
The
The
guy,
couple, the guy
yeah,
and the girl.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a garden look like that?
No, I haven't.
You don't have grass here and a plant here. Because all the nutrients going there because the grass is more of it and it's eating more,
Yeah.
You're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, it's built a lot tougher than what you're putting in there.
Yeah, so, to me, if you want to have a good garden, you need to first prepare it. It's like anything else. When you're getting ready to go play a football game, that quarterback goes there and he studies, prepares, and he's ready.
Yeah.
And you got to prepare a garden the same way. And once you do it, after that, it's not a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a lot of work. But you don't have nothing else taken away from the plant.
Mhm.
All the nutrients in the ground is going to the plant.
Mhm. Did you? I know you talked to me before when you had seen me using the straw on the garden. You told me the leaves were a lot better. And I noticed you did that last fall.
Well, if you'll notice wherever leaves lay, don't nothing grow.
Yeah.
But worms.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been doing that a long time.
Yeah. That's something you
Well,
learned growing up,
that
or?
straw and stuff, the only thing with straw and heads, it will eventually start growing itself again.
Yeah.
Now, that's the problem with it.
Yeah, so we see a lot of it in
Yeah, you
leaves.
see, cause until 5 or 6 years ago, didn't know how to bring any out there, period.
Mhm.
And that's why you didn't see no ryegrass, and now you see the ryegrass all over the place because of that.
Were you using the leaf method and technique? Is that something you learned growing up? You said.
No, that's just something I just started noticing that wherever the leaves are, it's two things: nothing growing and plenty of worms.
Okay.
And then worms being the best casting, the best fertilizer,
Mhm.
you getting a double whammy.
Yeah. What let's go back to the soil preparation. What do you say about people that say they might not want to till their plot as much because the microorganisms and the diversity and things like that would get destroyed.
Well, this is why you put nutrients in there to put it back. You put lime, garden lime, and you use your regular good fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spoon. See, all you're doing is feeding it.
What type of fertilizer?
Because, well, like I say, I use worm casting.
Yeah. Okay.
I go over to Co-op and buy the bag of worm casting. That's what I use.
Yeah. And how do you apply that?
No, I'll put around my plant. Sometimes if I'm setting out new plants, I put some in the hole, put forward, and then put the water in the plant and cover it up.
Yeah.
But also, it's like today, I just threw some all on the ground because it'll eventually, when I water it, it'll seep into the soil.
Yeah.
But all this rain we had this year, everybody need to put down some garden line.
Okay.
Because when you get this much rain, you lose a lot of nutrients.
Mm-hmm. Erodes the soil as well when there's no weeds, right? Is that true?
Huh?
Does it erode the soil quickly too in a weeded your garden is well weeded, the rain kind of washes some of the dirt away.
Oh yeah, well, see that's the other thing about when you're tilling. That's why I like to turn it over and let it sit, and then when you do move the weeds in the grass, it shakes right off.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to pull it up today and clear it all off, you'll never clear it all off.
Mm-hmm.
But if you let it sit for a day, it'll dry out, and when you shake the weed off, you're not getting rid of your topsoil. So that's the main thing that's wrong with all these gardens. People coming out the weeds with clumps of topsoil too, and they're throwing it all out.
Yeah.
So if you do that for 4 or 5 years, you've taken away a foot of soil.
You're gonna have a ditch.
Yeah, you know. So we till and we keep flat because the reason why I plant flat is because I think the mounds is great, but it's also a waste of time.
Yeah. So
now the drainage is great for it, but if you keep your land, I try to keep our garden kind of smooth, level.
Yeah.
That's why after I till before we plant, I take the rake and rake it all kind of level as I can.
Yeah, I've seen that. On your
That's the purpose of that. So when the water, it won't settle in one place, it'll go down all over.
Gotcha.
And of course, now planting the mounds, there's nothing wrong with that either, providing you don't make them too skinny.
Yeah.
Cause
the evaporation and stuff.
Yeah, because the water will run right off.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you punch the soil before you water every time.
Yeah. I think I had a little problem with that. I'm trying to make my beds a little wider slowly.
Oh yeah, well the wider then you can make them flat.
Yeah.
See, now if you notice, all Lincoln's got raised garden all over, but every one of them is wide.
Yeah, really wide. So I remember at one point we had a short conversation, and you were saying that you thought the growing season is longer than it had been in the past. Is that?
Oh yeah, it's definitely Well, this has been the most different year I've seen since I've been gardening all my life. I've never seen this much water at this time of the year.
Yeah, it probably rained about 2.5 weeks straight almost.
Right. We usually get that. Well, when I first started gardening down there, we got all our rain in April and May.
Mm-hmm.
Then it started moving to June. Now it's in July.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, it tells me that nature's doing its thing and the calendar is off.
Yeah.
See, the calendar is the only thing that have not changed since we've been in existence.
So you're saying the growing season is about the same length of time, it's just happening at a different time of the year?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, last year we had tomatoes at Thanksgiving. That's usually tomatoes are going in September.
Yeah. And so, do you think there's do you think that people are adjusting to that, or do you think people are still haven't recognized that yet?
Well, it's all part of the climate control thing. I think more people be beginning to recognize that something is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can call it climate control if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
but we know that this July was different from last July.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
See. So, I mean, you don't have to be no rocket scientist to know something is happening.
What do you remember? What month we got the hurricane last? Was that August? Wasn't the last year when the?
Well, see, tornadoes and hurricanes, that's a whole different thing.
Oh, okay.
Because you're going to get those in August and September. Tornadoes, hurricanes. One come in April, May, and early, and the one hits in September and around like that.
And it's been like that since you can remember.
Yeah, but we just didn't ever have a whole lot of problems on the East Coast with that up until the last few years. I mean, you have a major storm every 8 or 10 years, like a hazel or something come through, but then you probably wouldn't see that no more for another 10 or 15 years. It used to be like it used to snow around here in D.C. every 8 or 10 years. You get a real nice big snow.
Yeah.
But it ain't the same now.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to Mamie D. Lee a little bit. So I've been there for only 3 years, and I think you said earlier that B came in about 5 years ago. Is that?
Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
Yeah. Who was managing the garden before?
Well, what happened is we had this guy. What's his name? Damn. I started managing it after because he came in there. He came here, he was a white boy, and he was looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
So he got involved down there with Mamie D. Lee, and he was the one who was the manager when B became in with the NFI thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was the manager. Then I took over after he left after he messed the thing up. Because I went through a big problem with NFI. Because my sole purpose was to make sure that we always had a Mamie D. Lee community garden.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't fighting B or any of them. They might have thought that. I was fighting, make sure if you come in NFI, you still there with that plot we gave you. You don't have no real rights to do all this voting on the other side for Mamie D. Lee because you're really not a member of Mamie D. Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And technically you're not because we rented you a plot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to take care of that. And see, that's where we had it. I got in the problem with B because she wanted to come in and take charge of everything.
Hmm.
And I said, no, you the regulations say you got to be a member of Mamie D. Lee in order to be voting for things, and it costs you come up and had me $600 some for 35 plots, so don't make you a member of Mamie D. Lee. It makes you NFI, and that's the plot we gave you all over there, and that's what you are. But eventually, we went through a whole lot of stuff, but we got it settled. It came on in, but all I wanted to make clear was that we wanted to stay Mamie D. Lee Community Garden.
Yeah. That seems like it's important to keep that alive.
Right. Right.
How it was originally, because you guys, like you said, you guys were out there working to keep it from becoming a parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? What happened with the guy? Well, how did he mess up? Why did you have to start managing?
It was a big mess when he started working for the Park Service too. What he did, he used Mamie D. Lee to get him a job with the Interior Department.
Hmm.
And eventually, when he got the spot he wanted, he moved back to Nebraska. I think he was from Nebraska somewhere.
Yeah.
He was one of that first group of whites that started moving in D.C. looking for jobs. Because for a while, white people were running out of D.C. fast and you could say hello, for a lot of years.
What years are we talking?
They started leaving D.C. probably before I came to D.C.
Yeah. So, what?
But well, see, what I found over the years is, now watching this, when the economy is going good, the top whites go and get those good jobs because they had access to them out of government.
Mm-hmm.
When the economy goes bad, white folks run back to the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, they downing and talking about downsizing. But when that's the only good paying jobs around,
yeah,
you see them all. That's what's happening in D.C. D.C. is a good paying area now.
Yeah.
Top. And you see them rushing here.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people coming here every year. Myself, I've only lived in D.C. for 3 years. So.
Yeah. Well, you always have certain amounts, but see, I can remember when the federal government in this area was lily white, and then I can remember when it kind of like turned all black. And then from 1980, when Ronald Reagan came in and started to pushing, killing the union and doing all these things, that was primarily directed at blacks in their own kind of way, you know, things start changing, and the economy start going bad, and then whites start coming back to D.C. when the economy got bad, because all you had to do was get on that list, get you a federal job.
So this guy that came to manage the garden, he was. What time period would you say he showed up?
Like about 1 or 2 years before B showed up.
So early 2000s.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who managed it before that?
Well, we had different managers.
Yeah. Do you remember any of their names?
Yeah, Rick Jones. We had one guy stayed manager for a long time. And he died. But I've been the manager, the treasurer for temporary and different spots, you know.
What were some of the challenges that you had to? Because I know when you were in a position like that, sometimes you're doing you're doing it because you love gardening, but when you're doing the treasury or the manager.
Well, I got caught in that because the young lady that we had for the treasurer, she just stopped showing up and everything, and we wasn't getting no financial reports. So Bernard and I, she went over and had her to switch it over to me.
Okay.
And Bernard, and so I was the treasurer and he was acting manager. He's the vice president. We just kept it going, and that's when we whatever his name is, I can't think of his name. That's when that guy became the manager.
Yeah.
What is his name?
So what'd you say he did to really mess things up? I don't think.
Well, the way he did it, I'm trying to think. I don't want to be lying.
That's all right. I don't want to put you on the spot either.
He didn't do things the way the garden wanted him to do it.
That you were used to doing.
Yeah.
The way that you felt was.
Well, not necessarily the way he used to doing it. He just said he did things that we didn't know nothing about.
Got you.
Say, for instance, when he decided to leave the Mamie D League Garden, I was the manager, instead of bringing everything to me, he gave it all to B.
Okay. Yeah,
So then this makes up here like she's running the show.
A little communication issues.
That's what it was. He started a lot of communication issues.
So as the manager, you were the manager from what year? Do you remember that you started?
I took over I just became the manager because I wanted to straighten the things out. I can't think of his name. The mess that he made, and I just wanted it temporarily anyway. I just wanted it long enough for us to get it straight. Let's get us going back the way we were going.
Yeah.
But by this time, we had started the website and everything. We started getting a lot of people on the garden.
Yeah. So we were probably looking about the mid 2000s, the end of 2000 maybe.
Let me see. I think you came along when B and them turned out their first class of NFI people.
My first year was the summer of 2011.
Yeah, so it might have been, he was there around 2007 or 8, somewhere in there.
So, in the last...
I know B probably has not been out over 5 or 6 years at the very most. Yeah. Aaron, all of them came in at the same time. Sarah, they only been there less than 10 years.
Yeah. So, in the last 10 years, what are some of the positive things that have happened? It sounds like, you said there's a lot more people. Now there's a waiting list. There's a lot more people interested.
when we finally got straight, so we and FII, we could all work together and be one unit. Things turned out to be much better. We was able to get the grants and different things,
Yeah.
and get the fence, and I think it's in good shape right now.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I'm there is because I think I took the class with NFI, and that I think they gave me preference to get a garden plot. So.
Yeah. The guy named was a manager.
No, not from.
Oh.
I can't remember which North Carolina. I can't remember.
Not North Carolina. The white guy that came in, that was B.
Oh, him.
Put that thing on there.
Now I don't want the ring, so I'm just holding like this.
Well, it's buzzing.
No, it's not, but okay.
But don't tell
Oh, I
me.
can't remember.
That's okay.
All right.
So yeah, like I was saying, I mean, I didn't know anything about gardening, and I took the class, and then I was able to get a garden plot. So it seems like they're doing some good things in terms of like outreach and marketing.
The whole thing is good. It's good. The point that I wish the NFI would do was teach more preparation.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Because they some of them kids will come out and plant right in a bunch of rain.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? What you calling me?
So also since I've been there, I think you guys built the deer fence while I was taking the class, so that was 2011.
Yeah.
And so the deer have gotten. I mean, I've seen deer out there before, but it's hard to believe that, before it wasn't a problem, and now all of a sudden we have the deer. Was that a part anti-theft fence too, or was that just really?
Well, it was. We wanted it to be both, but the Park Service wouldn't approve. So we wanted a chain link fence.
Yeah.
Because some of the gardeners were causing some of the problems because they was leaving the gates open so people could come in and stuff, And the problem we still is the gardeners we got now are not true faithful gardeners. Just the other day somebody used a till, I didn't know nothing about it. I got down there, the fan belt was off. All they had to do was say, we use a till, the fan belt's off.
Yeah.
So, they're not really true gardeners. They down there on a whim, and if they lack it, or but it's something about gardening is a real peaceful kind of thing, and it's a kind of friendliness come around you. My next door neighbor, a gardener, just like next door neighbor to the house or something. Something is not where it used to be.
So you're
the
saying
friendliness is not like it used to be.
Not as much of a sense of ownership and a sense of community in terms
now,
of.
I see it more in the NFI people than I see it in regular gardeners.
Well, a lot of those are volunteers. Right?
Yeah.
They don't actually have their own
stuff.
plot.
Yeah. But when they're over there, they being friendly. But you can have one guy come down and sit there all day long and won't even speak right next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think some of that, might be that a lot of those people are not really native to this area, so maybe they don't feel, like this is, like I was saying, they don't have that sense of ownership, and they might not have as much of a sense of community whereas before, a lot of people that were gardening here grew up in this city.
Well, I don't think that's got as much to do with it as the fact that some people are just not friendly.
That too, yeah.
And some are.
Yeah.
And I think that once, okay, for instance, like I notice people, I've been getting on these people about planting on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I got on the girl right next to you about doing it. Then she went and asked Bernard could she plant some stuff in his garden, and then she went and put it right on the line in his garden. I guess she's trying to, but she gonna have to move it.
Yeah.
You wish you was out there and didn't have to make no rules, but all my rules are out there because people make you make them.
What's
the gardeners make you make them.
How many? What's the difference compared to the 70s and 80s in terms of the amount of rules versus now? Have you been adding rules as you go along?
Yeah. People started to bringing the dogs in and all kind of stuff. I mean, there's no place in a garden for a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
don't put on a tuxedo to go to the garden. So, you just real basic common sense things is, of course, we're in a world where common sense things ain't no more. People don't go with the simple logics. Everything got to be special this or whatever.
Make it complicated.
Yeah. And keeping it simple the way I like it. People don't like simplicity, I guess, no more as much. But just like the rules said, you plant a foot from the line.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have nobody that would cheat that.
Yeah.
But now you got people it's mainly the African people that's doing it, not African American.
No, yeah, I understand.
And most of them plant the same thing all over the whole garden.
I see that. It was a little bit of ochre, maybe.
But mostly it's the same thing.
What is that? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is, but boy, they must eat a lot of it.
I think they might be selling a lot of it too, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but I know that I don't call that community gardening.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
You got a 25 by 25 and you got one thing in it.
It's a little mini monoculture.
Yeah, so and every one of them will dig past the line.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna probably have to address that Monday. Oh, his name was Harold Stone.
Harold Stone, all right. Miss Mary has brought us a note with it.
Yeah, and I had shared it over there because she used to be the secretary.
Okay, and we're speaking with Benny's wife here. She's also in the room with us, and that's the name of the previous garden manager that Benny took over.
Right, Harold Stone.
Harold Stone. So who else do you remember from the garden? I mean, was there any other strange or unusual or people that you really liked? Really, you really enjoyed being around from over the years that you can remember? Or?
Well, like I said, all of them are dead.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you remember any stories about any people planting something weird or trying some new techniques that you never saw before, or any unusual stories from people?
No. Licorice is probably the only one that I saw do things a little different from most gardeners. But it wasn't nothing super outstanding.
Yeah.
Story time behind it.
Yeah.
Now there's one gardener that came up to me last year, wanted to plant dandelion. Come on, because she liked the way they look.
Yeah.
I told him the dandelion.
Just wait, right?
It's a weed out here, and you have to keep all weeds out the garden.
Just wait, you'll get plenty of them.
Yeah, and she's talking about how they are in the backyard. I suppose I have to remind her this is Mamie D community garden, not your backyard.
Yeah.
I got all kind of stuff growing in my backyard right there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll probably see all kind of stuff growing all right here.
Yeah, I didn't. I think if you said you have stuff in the backyard too. When we get done, I'd like to see that as well. I'm interested.
Yeah.
So, we do you think that there's a growing interest in gardening as a whole? I mean, does it seem like there's a good? I mean, to me, it seems like there's a good core of younger gardeners at the garden right now.
Yeah, I definitely. Well, what's happening now is people's paying much closer attention to their health, and gardening is one way to eat healthy, the best way to eat healthy.
Yeah. So do you think that was
Yeah, I know we talked about that.
do you think? Well, you can join if you have something to add. Feel free. Your memories are good too. So before it probably wasn't that big a deal because most of the stuff you got was natural anyways. Way less processed food and with ingredients that you can't even buy yourself or stuff you couldn't even make in your house, like microwavable this and that.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, well.
Do you think there was was there any decrease in interest? Once fast food started coming around, did people kind of move away from gardening?
Well, I think blacks as a rule moved away from gardening because the stigma behind it, farming and hard labor work that their parents and grandparents went through. They didn't want no part of farming.
Yeah,
that happened, and they didn't even want to garden.
Yeah,
because I had talked to some people that felt that way, but I convinced them that they need to try gardening again, and they saw it in a different light after they started all over again. And I think that's what happened with a lot of people my age and younger. They wanted to move from that
to try to pursue more professional careers and things like that.
Yeah, even hobbies, because to me, gardening probably started as a hobby for me.
Yeah. So, we have Mamie D Lee here. There's lots of community gardens in D.C. Have you visited many of the
I've been to all the community gardens in D.C.
Every single one?
Yeah.
Which ones stood out to you?
Well, one time I was in the Fort DuPont community garden for a little while too. I forgot about that. I liked it over there because they had a nice big old iron gated fenced in garden over there at Fort DuPont.
Is that the one they have bees at as well, or is it?
They might have them there now. They didn't then.
Yeah. So you said you had a plot there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I looked at a couple. I was impressed with. I can't think of the name of one of the gardens up in Northwest, where they had grapevines under control, and they had. Well, they think the whole garden, all individual gardens kind of fenced off.
Yeah, I think I read about one that's like that. I don't remember the name. Are there more community gardens now than when you first came to D.C.?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they're, like Longfellow Street. The only community gardens in this whole area that you could see was the one right on Blair Road and Mamie D. Lee, up this way. But now you got them Taylor Street, 13th and Taylor, 14th and Taylor. You got them right behind the precinct up here in Longfellow Street. They even got one there, that little flat pub down there by the Washington Hospital Center. There's a little garden thing in there now.
Yeah, I'm surprised sometimes I see them. I'm just riding my bike past and I'm like, oh, wow, there's a community garden.
Yeah, you see them popping up more and more.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the Obamas put people on the health watch, and a lot of people started getting in the garden after that. Before then, we didn't have to worry about no waiting lists at all. We was spreading the space, but after that,
Do you remember like how much maybe like the fee was for a plot back when you first got around? I mean, right now I think it's like $25.
$15.
$15.
We kept it. It stayed $15 for at least 20 years.
Okay. So yeah, it's really cheap now. I mean, $25 a year for unlimited water.
Well, that went up when Harold Stone came. He decided that we weren't charging enough.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
Oh, it's worth it. Because if you get You pull 10 tomatoes off, you got $25.
Exactly. So, what do you see Mamie D. Lee ever maybe expanding, or do you think there's still some room over there? Are they gonna utilize that eventually?
Well, the last time we tried to get them to do it, the Park Service wouldn't do it. See, with the changes they made, because the person, whatever her name is, I don't know if she's still there now, in charge, you got to have, in charge of the garden setup, got to be somebody that like gardening. You know, I don't think that woman knew anything about gardening, was making decisions about gardening. But that happens in the federal government, it happens almost anywhere you go. A lot of people making decisions they don't know nothing about.
Yeah.
Because we went through a whole lot of stuff with her.
So you've already tried to pursue that. Well, I mean it's.
But now the things will help. Now, if the waiting list get long enough and they start complaining, but why don't we have more space? There's all that empty space over there doing nothing. If enough people come in, you can voices, numbers, make changes.
Yeah.
When I was trying to do it, it was just me.
I was speaking to another gardener in Northwest, and she's at their garden they order beneficial insects. Have you ever tried to introduce any type of beneficial insects or anything?
Nah, because they used to talk about ladybugs and all these things. All of them eat up your plant.
One way or another?
Nah. The best thing to do is, like, I got a barrel out there full of stinking stuff that I'm going to start using on my garden pretty soon.
Did you just say you have a barrel full of stinky stuff?
Tub I made up with garlic and onions and hot
Okay.
pepper.
So it's a recipe you've been using for a while.
Yeah, well, I know that most, if you don't like pepper,
Yeah.
see, why not use it?
Do you compost here at your house?
No. I really don't do composting because actually we never was into a bunch of composting even when I when I was going to gardening. We take it all, stack it or style. But to really compost, you got to turn it in water, then turn it in. Every so often to do it right.
Yeah.
I don't have enough space here.
What's the difference between what you grow at Mamie D. Lee and what you grow at your house?
I basically be the same thing. It's just that I don't have to go to the garden and get it. All I got to walk in the backyard.
So what do I see that you have? You have okra out there that I've seen.
I don't have no okra here now.
Okay.
Certain things I just will have cucumbers, tomatoes, some greens, a little bit of mustard greens, beans or peas or something. Something that grows, stuff that grows up. I can grow it on the vine stuff. I just put this today.
So those are cantaloupes.
Cantaloupes.
So he's got some cucumbers and cantaloupes on the table here that he's got from the home garden. Those are some pretty nice sized cucumbers.
You got cucumbers in your garden?
I do have some cucumbers.
Have they doing anything?
I got one the other day. I got my first one. Yeah. All right. He's even gonna give me a cucumber. What a good guy. What a good guy. So, how big is the garden at the house? How much space?
It's not that, I utilize space in a different way than most people. I run stuff up instead of out.
Ah, okay.
In the backyard, everything goes up.
So vertical gardening techniques.
Yeah. I got a fence out there. Well, I'll show it to you.
Yeah, let's. We can head outside. I just want to ask a few more questions, if you don't mind. I think we've been here for a little over an hour, so we can start wrapping up. But what's your overall I mean, vision or outlook for gardeners and gardening in DC? Do you think that it's going to keep growing? And are you happy with what you see? What hasn't been accomplished yet that you think is still needs to be worked on?
Well, I think gardening will be around for a while now. I think people are really interested in their health more now than they were 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They paying close attention to their health. People finally realizing that your health is what you eat,
Yeah.
and you are what you eat.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people didn't pay no attention that, you know, people will go out and buy the most expensive house, shoes, and everything, and then go eat the cheapest food they can find.
Exactly.
I can never understand this.
Yeah.
I never did understand that, myself personally,
Yeah.
because I always felt that healthy eating was number one.
Yeah.
I put that above everything, the rent, everything.
I
Eat
agree.
good.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to ask you about is when you and Mamie D. Lee, how did everyone get their seeds and things? Was there certain garden stores around? Did people buy them together through catalogs?
Well, yeah, well, a lot of it. See, 12th Street, 12th and Monroe has got a little hardware store there that's been there for
Yeah.
about 75 or 100 years.
Yeah.
And that used to be the main supplier for a lot of seeds in D.C. for people that was gardening over in the Mamie D. Lee anyway.
Okay.
But I always use them, like I go to North Carolina a lot, South Carolina, Georgia. Wherever I go, if I see some seeds that look like nice, I grab them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So I get my seeds from all over the place.
All right. Well.
In fact, all my broccoli and everything last year came from North Carolina plants. I was down there, down in October, so they had the plants, so I just bought them. I bought them on back, my collard plants, broccoli,
Gotcha.
cauliflower, lettuce.
Yeah.
They're a little cheaper.
So do you don't really save seeds as much as you did growing up?
No, well, actually, you got to watch seeds now, because certain seeds they won't be no good. You know this. Bernard, we looking at some company called Monsanto.
Mm-hmm.
Keep making these seeds, because they don't want. You got to realize that when big businesses jumped into the gardening,
Mm-hmm.
like they jump into everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then it changes.
Yeah. What are some seeds that you would recommend, like for people that want to start saving seeds? What's something easy they can try to save?
Well, okra is one of the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a later to any of it. Beans, I always let a few beans dry up in there. Like when I first couple pickings of, say, Kentucky Wonders,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get them green, but I'll eventually let an X amount dry.
Yeah.
And I eat them.
Yeah.
Instead of going buying dry beans, I dry them home.
Yeah.
And in the process, I'll plant some of them again the next year.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I have gone to the store and bought baby limas and went right to the garden and planted them.
Yeah.
And they work. Even though people will tell you that they don't.
What are some of like the hardest things to grow in DC? What's something that's really difficult, but people still are managed to if they do it right?
Artichokes is a hard one.
Artichokes. Yeah,
For this area.
I saw some in Bob's
Yeah.
plot. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's so hard about artichokes?
Well, I think that it's the growing season for it.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it gets probably too hot.
So with all the stuff,
But I don't have no. The things that I like, I don't have no problem with growing them.
yeah,
And I like the basic, beans, peas. I don't plant no corn because I think in order to get enough corn, you need a lot of space.
yeah,
And then the corn takes up too much space.
mm-hmm.
In a small community garden, I concentrate on the things that won't interfere with everybody else, but get abundance of, like beans, okras, peas,
Yeah.
tomatoes. You can control that, But if you do corn, if you if you plant corn a foot from the edge, you still gonna have corn out in the aisle.
Yeah, yeah. So, with the things that you do grow, do you have any special dishes you like to make, or any good secret recipes, or what are some of your favorite ways to prepare some of the vegetables you grow?
Well, I prepare them so many different ways, and I don't like the same taste from the same thing, so I change up the taste on almost all things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cooking is kind of one of my hobbies, so I get into cooking as hard as I garden.
Yeah. All right. Nothing specific, or is it kind of just do you go by follow recipes, or do you just kind of do it as
No. I
Yeah.
do no recipe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just comes natural to me. I get in the kitchen and I start cooking. I don't really know how I'm gonna fix it, but it just happens.
It turns out good.
99% of the time. I would say I can probably cook as well as any chef in any big time restaurant you can go into around here.
All right. I might have to take you up on that sometime.
You come around.
Yeah.
You can come around for Saturday. I'm gonna fry some fish Saturday.
Oh, see, I'm vegetarian, but I would still be interested in some of your dishes.
Oh well, I picked a lot of. Say instead of zucchini, I'll take and cut a zucchini like a French fry,
Yeah.
season it and put it in the oven.
Mm. Yeah, that sounds nice.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
No grease involved, other than I throw a little olive oil on it. Or
Yeah.
I use different. Now, I go to the screen. I use coconut oil. I use coconut vinegar. I use sunflower oil. I use all. I use grapeseed oil. It depends on what I'm fixing.
So you're using some quality products.
Yeah.
Quality ingredients.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use a lot of raw coconut.
Are there any restaurants here that you think are pretty good in this area, or maybe some restaurants that from the past that you remember that you really liked?
I go to Miss K's there once in a while. I like their stuff over there once in a while.
Where is that at?
On Dale Avenue in Silver Spring. I don't do no. I never did do fast food, so that's completely out of business. I didn't let my kids do fast food. So.
Yeah.
I used to go down to Phillips a lot, but then they started using. Then I found out that most of their seafood was farm raised, so I kind of cut that back because same thing, but red lobster.
Yeah.
And they shrimp and all. Most of them is not wild. Most big restaurants, you got to pick your restaurants if you want really good wild caught seafood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not fond of farm raised seafood. I like farm raised collards or cabbage or something, but not seafood.
Do you ever go to what's the name of the fish market in town? Is it just
I go to Whole Foods.
Whole Foods? Yeah.
Most of my seafood come from Whole Foods.
What did you ever go to that market in the past? What's the name of it? It's
Live downtown.
Yeah.
On the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I still go down there occasionally, but see, by me fishing, I go fishing. I'm going fishing next week. I go fishing once or twice a month.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So you do it all, man. You do it all.
Yeah. The good Lord put all these things on you, and I try to get in as many of them as I can.
I hear that. So is there anything else that that you remember about the garden that's important, or anything I might have missed out? Any advice for people that want to get started? I know you said to get the weeds out.
Preparation. If you take the time and clear your garden good, you shouldn't have any problem. But then there's you want to watch what you feed your plants with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people overwater down there too. It was cracking me up. It would rain all day, and I see people down there watering.
And what's some of the problems with overwatering?
Root rot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, you've seen it on the end of your tomatoes. You see it on your peppers?
What is it? What is it? The
It
actual
start
root?
rotting.
The fruit or the
The fruit.
not so much. I've seen it, but not on a regular basis. I think.
You know, that's one of the things. That's what I noticed different about this rain. Normally, when we get rain like that 2 weeks in a row, almost every tomato plant would have some root rot, but that it didn't. It didn't do it this year like that, and that's what's kind of surprised me. I didn't see it. Most of the time, plants die.
Yeah.
But I'll show you some root rot the next time we're down there.
All right. All right.
Use it on a tomato. The bottom part of the tomato will start turning brown or black. On a red pepper or green pepper, it'll start looking like it's turning red, but then it'll start turning white.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that on the pepper.
I saw it on one or two of yours, but you probably didn't know what it was.
Well, I'm gonna need you to show me, man.
Now, that's why I said I'll show you the next time.
All right.
I'll be down on Saturday morning for a little while.
Okay. All right. So,
But that and you need, most people plant their stuff too close together. So there's no way you'll get maximum yield because it's going straight up instead of out and up. And the way to make it grow out is around, you keep your soil around your plants soft. The roots don't have a hard time working its way through the soil, and the farther the root go out this way, the farther the branches of the plant will go out.
Yeah, I've had trouble with. It's been a learning curve in terms of
Well,
spacing.
say for instance, like just for you and your lady, you probably, if you like okra, say for instance, instead of like all the okra plants we got, we don't need them because we got enough okra to give everybody.
Yeah.
2 or 3 okra plants, spread it out right, will give one family all the okra that you can have. But if you jam it together, it's going straight up. See, if our plants ain't gonna do it here because we transplanted them too late. But normally, on our okra plants, you'll see 6, 7, 8, or 10 limbs off of one plant, and you might go and pull 5 okras off of one plant, or 10 okras off of one plant. Same thing with tomatoes, broccoli, all that. Spread it out so it can spread out, and you don't need nearly as much. Tomatoes is a funny thing. I always like to do at least 2 or 3 different varieties of tomatoes because every year 1 or 2 varieties is not going to do good.
Yeah.
That's just human nature with it.